Creatures of the world, and welcome back to Coffee with Kerri-Lynn. It's a beautiful day in the far north of Maine, up along the Canadian border, in the crown of Maine, and I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are as well. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world, today we're going to talk about the shenanigans going on in Oregon. Oregon. The Oregonians are going to be mad because I can't pronounce the name of their state. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world, I have a serious disability. It has developed over the years. It is very embarrassing at times. It is very upsetting. People make fun of me and bully me all the time. They do. They make fun of how I speak. I was born and raised in Rhode Island till I was 21 years old, and then we moved to Maine, and I've lived out the rest of my adulthood in the state of Maine. I now live in the state of Maine where they speak a lot of French. And over the course of the last 16 years of my life, I've been exposed to the French dialect mixed with English. A little bit of a 50-50 thing. I call it Franglish. And they speak that fluently up here. And at times, during conversation, people will stop me mid-sentence. It is very embarrassing. And it is very hurtful, but they say, I'm sorry, I cannot understand what you're saying. This is how you pronounce this word. This is how you pronounce that word. And they try to give me English lessons while they speak Franglish. As a result, my dialect is very mixed and it has a bit of a twang in it. And every once in a while, when we're having a big family gathering, or I'm just going to go home for a little relaxation to Rhode Island and hang out with my family, I go home and again, I start speaking and they stop me and they say, I don't understand what the hell you're saying, girl. And so I repeat myself and they're like, no. And right there in the middle of the family gathering, they start giving me English lessons because they can't understand what I say with the little twang that I have. It's a situation that is very, very hurtful. And I'm in Rhode Island. I visit my family. And people always ask me, are you from New York or New Jersey? What do you mean? I'm from Rhode Island. Well, you don't sound like you're from Rhode Island. You sound like you're from New York or New Jersey. Well, I'm from Rhode Island. And then I come home after a vacation to my family. And I hanging out with my friends. And maybe they have a new person they want me to meet. And the first thing that new person asks me is, are you from New York or New Jersey? I'm from Rhode Island. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world, it's a tomato situation. Oregon. For the purposes of this video, because somebody's going to correct me on how to say it, it is what it is, and that's how it is. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world, let's get into today's show. Let's talk about the crazy laws that were passed in Oregon in 21-22. They decided in Oregon that they were going to start making people less dependent. Let's just say it that way. What's going on all over the country is in 21-22, we were shell-shocked at what happened when they removed our individual selves from society, when they told us to stay away from friends, they told us to stay away from family, they told us to stay away from aging relatives, grandmas and grandpas, and they made it virtually impossible to visit people in hospitals or in nursing homes, even if those people were, on their deathbed. And at that time, we were just coming back into society. People were wandering aimlessly through the grocery store, afraid to speak to people lest you exchanged germs. And during that period, your state legislatures were up to making laws. And boy, did some states make some dang laws, let me tell you. And the design of the law was to squash a certain form of independence, because if you have this independence, you are less malleable. You are a lot less easy to control. You do not conform. You do not go with their flow as easily as you do if you were dependent upon them to meet your basic needs for food. And a lot of food laws were passed, such as it has become illegal in a lot of areas in our country to grow a backyard garden. Can't be doing that. It is illegal in a lot of states to have a couple chickens running around your yard. If you think you got a backyard chicken, you're crazy in some states. And they've restricted it to a point where Oregon has actually decided to strip property rights from property owners. And let me tell you about it. So what happened in Oregon was they deemed that the well water on the property you purchase now is a public utility. Isn't that great? And you cannot water gardens or livestock with public utilities. You need a special commercial permit to do that. Now, understand that there is a certain acreage that go with these laws that they have passed and are now starting to implement in Oregon. 2 years after the fact, they're just getting around to letting people know you can't do this and you can't do that, because this is how things work. States never pass laws and jump right into them, do they? Because that would cause shock and horror to the citizens of that state. So they pass laws, and over time, they slowly implement aspects of the laws. And now, things that are being implemented in Oregon are, you need a certain acreage. And they always start with the big people, you know, the big farmers that own the acreage, they're commercial farms. And then they take a little bit more and say, okay, now we're going to have smaller acreage fall under these commercial farming laws. So like in every state, when people are the minority and your state is trying to take away something from the citizens, they start with where the minority is, where it's not going to affect a lot of people. And eventually they start overstepping that bound, and they start grabbing the next group that's a minority and grabbing the next group that's a minority as baby steps along the way until you finally can't do a thing. And that happens in all states. It happens all the time. And minorities just are laughed at. I mean, we have the smoking laws that people were fighting. It started with the vape shops. You couldn't buy and sell flavored vapes in the state of Maine. And then you couldn't have them imported into the state of Maine. And all the smokers, they laughed at the vapors. And the vapors said, hey, they're going to come for your menthol cigarettes next. And they're going to come for your cherry tobacco in your pipe. And lo and behold, it's happening now. And while all the people who smoke cigarettes were laughing at the vapors told them, they come after us because we're so few and far between. And now they're coming after you. And that's kind of what Oregon did. They started with the big commercial farms. Now you need to own less acreage, and you're falling under commercial farming laws. So if you own your property and you own your well, and now in Oregon, that's a public utility. You can't water your garden with your public utilities, and you can't water your livestock. You need a commercial permit to use your well for that, although you can bathe and drink off of your well without any problems. You can use, in Oregon, your rainwater to water your garden and water your livestock. However, they're going to ban rain catchment systems. So there you have it. So now you have no water for your garden and you have no water for your livestock unless you are having a commercial water permit. Now, if you are in Oregon and you have a little shed out on the back of your property, I don't care if you call it a shed, a coop, a shack, a barn, whatever you call it is not what the state of Oregon is calling it now. If you have a couple chickens, maybe you have some turkeys, maybe you have a couple rabbits, they're all for your own personal use. If you have a driveway, a paved driveway, a dirt driveway, a gravel path, or a footpath to that building, it's a barn, you're a commercial farmer. And you guessed it, you need another permit for that. So that is what is going on in Oregon. Oregon. And the Oregonians let it happen to them because when people are in a state of panic, they are not paying attention to what's going on in their state. And our hearts really do go out to the people of Oregon and to the people of the many states that started passing these crazy you can't garden laws in their states and in their municipalities and in their communities. So there you have it. People ask me all the time why I stay in the great state of Maine, because it's as blue can be. We have a moonbat governor, and we have crazy laws that were passed in our state as well. But there is one reason that I stay here in the state of Maine. And it's not because I own my property, because I would sell it in a heartbeat if this law, if this constitutional right that was granted to us goes away. Now, Maine has a lot of crazy laws that they have implemented over the last couple years in this state. Everything California does, it seems our governor is in love with, and so we get that law as well. And they've passed a trans the children law. Now, I am not happy about that law. I do not believe that law should exist. And there are 15 attorney generals from 15 states in this country suing the pants off of us, and I thank them for it every single day, because those laws need to be taken off the damn books. Now, we all know where I stand on that subject. Leave the children alone. And yes, Maine has the law where you can be from another state, and if you feel your child needs a procedure, you can come into our state and get the procedure. And there's nothing the other parent can do. The child in the state of Maine that says it's something that it is not can effectively be treated by the damn state of Maine. Well, these laws need to come right the hell off our books. So I do stand behind the 15 attorney generals of the 15 states that are suing the pants off of us. Now, our governor is also trying to mess with the 2A laws in the state of Maine because of the Lewiston shooting. They're trying to do a little more tightening of the belt on owning guns in the state of Maine. Now, we are a constitutional carry state. We can open carry, we can conceal carry in the state of Maine. The constitutional carry part, they can't mess with. So that affords us more protection in the state of Maine. On top of that, there are a lot of communities, especially up here along the Canadian border. The real Maine, as we call it, anything south of us is kind of northern Massachusetts, and they're very progressive in southern Maine. They really are like a connection to Massachusetts, and we don't live down there. And we live up in the real Maine, northern Maine, 15 minutes from the Canadian border, and we have a lot of towns and municipalities up here that are 2A sanctuary cities. So there you go. They are going to preserve your Second Amendment no matter what our fruity governor decides to do. And that's another reason why I stay in the state of Maine. But the main reason why I live in Maine and will not move from the state of Maine is because just recently we passed a constitutional right to grow food in your own backyard in the state of Maine. And I absolutely feel that he who controls the food controls the population. He who has to feed you is the hand you are not going to bite. And although the laws in the state of Maine, as far as growing your own food, it helps the homesteaders, because basically nobody can tell you you can't do this. You have the right in the state of Maine to grow food to meet your family's individual nutritional needs, be it a vegetable garden or a livestock. That's the long and short of it. What I can do is grow my food on my property without inhibition, without consequence from anybody else. Now, what I can't do in the state of Maine when I grow my food is I cannot just throw out a vegetable stand on the side of the road, because you need to be permitted for that. There's agricultural laws here too. I cannot process any of my livestock and give it to my neighbor, because I need USDA shenanigans for that. So as long as I am providing for me and my family that live on my piece of property, I am allowed to grow and process my family's nutritional needs. And that is the one thing that keeps me from moving anywhere else in this country, because he who controls the food controls you. And we ain't having that, are we? We are going to stand tall in our pursuit of our happiness. And you have to be in Maine to do that. We are the first state to do it. I think there's a second state that is trying to do that now. But we had, like I said, in 21, 22, a lot of states went through and just ripped the dream of homesteading, ripped the dream of growing your own food for organic reasons, for nutritional reasons, for your family. And they just ripped the rug right out from under their citizens. And we're not doing here in the state of Maine. We do a lot of crazy other things in the state of Maine, a lot of serious things in the state of Maine. And the fact that I can stay nourished and not suffer malnourishment allows me to push back against some of the fruity things that we do in Maine. We have a very small community in Maine, here in the state of Maine. A lot of the communities are very small. Your kids go to school with the people that sit on city council, so you see them often out and about in public. We're not such big cities up here in the north where you never see people that sit on city council, and you can give them a piece of your mind in public if you have to. Our state representative lives about 8 houses down from me, so you bet your bottom dollar, ladies and gentlemen, when things go on in Augusta that I'm not happy about, it is very vocalized. The state senator, he's the president of our state senate there, Mr. Troy Jackson, when he's up for re-election, he comes around, visits everybody. We stand in the driveway. He's a Democrat. He does some things that I like and some things that I don't like. And I let Troy Jackson know what I've approved of and what I haven't approved of that he's done while holding office during his term. And he is a small business owner as well as my state rep a few doors away from me. They're small business owners. They're in the community, and they're accessible. And you can let them know, what you feel is right or you feel is wrong, what you think they've done correctly, what you think they've done as in a misguided effort for the citizens of the state. But you have a voice, and we see the people that run our state in our communities all the time. Now, we don't see Senator Collins anywhere. She was born here, grew up here, but we don't see her here because she lives in Bangor now. She doesn't want to hear the shenanigans from the people up here in Caribou. She don't want to hear anything from us at all, except, anything that's good. But if it's bad, she don't get back to you either. So that's part of the situation that happens in communities. It's not on the federal level, ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world. That's not where the change is affected. The change is affected, and the change that most affects you is in your municipalities, who is sitting on your city councils and on your town councils and on your school boards, and who is sitting in your state legislative offices. That's what matters. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful creatures of the world, thank you for joining me today on Coffee with Kerri-Lynn. I hope you join me tomorrow as well. Beautiful creatures of the world, carpe diem, because no one promised you a tomorrow.